Thanks, Lisa. The U.S. and Israel have, of course, been in close coordination as they continue to make strikes against Iran. But last week, reporting emerged that an unlikely regional ally had also endorsed taking kinetic action against Tehran, Saudi Arabia. Now, the Saudis almost instantly refuted that report. But where exactly does the kingdom stand in this conflict? What is their relationship with the Islamic Republic? And will the regime in Tehran actually fall? We want to welcome our colleague, Mishal Husain, who dug into all these issues with Professor Bernard Hakel of Princeton, who's a regional expert with a surprisingly close relationship with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Mishal, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Christina.
I want to say I feel like I have pretty good contacts in my phone, but listening to your interview, I got WhatsApp envy because this professor apparently regularly texts with MBS in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, Bernard Hakel is based at Princeton, and about 10 years ago, he met Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia and then on a visit to the United States. And because Professor Hakel is a native Arabic speaker, he was born and brought up in Lebanon, they are able to converse in the Crown Prince's native tongue. And they have kept in touch. They do speak regularly via WhatsApp often, and they speak both privately and on the record because Professor Hakel has a book that's going to be coming out later this year about modern-day Saudi Arabia. So that's the context. That's a particular insight he has. But in broad terms, essentially 1 week into this military action, we wanted to explore how quickly other countries in the region were brought in through Iranian retaliation and some of the complexities within those relationships in the region. So between Saudi Arabia and Iran, between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, Saudi Arabia and the United States as well. So all of that was part of the tapestry that we explored with Bernard Hakel for this weekend's episode of the show.
I think that's so important because there is an instinct sometimes, especially with Americans, to kind of paint that region as a monolith, but it's really not. It's very different. And there is no love lost between Saudi and Iran. But this report was still surprising. And you asked him about this reporting that the Saudis had endorsed and maybe even encouraged these strikes. We want to play some of that sound.
He did call Trump several times, asking him not to attack. So that's the true version of it. And he, having said that, he also warned the Iranians, because the Iranians did threaten him, that if they are existentially threatened, that they would attack him. And he warned the Iranians that if they were to attack him, he would have to defend himself and that he would launch attacks against Iran. And I think that's exactly what's likely to happen. You're going to see the Saudi Air Force getting involved in this war on the side of both the U.S. and Israel. He is a nationalist, MBS is a nationalist, and he has to show his own population that he can defend the country against these attacks, because the attacks have been on civilian targets and industrial targets. The major oil refinery has been attacked, and so on. And so he needs to, like the Iranians, reestablish deterrence.
So it sounds like he's saying he's refuting that initial report, but the Saudis may end up getting involved in this conflict anyway.
Yes. So dialing back for a second, it was the Washington Post that reported that over the course of the last month, according to their sources, that Mohammed bin Salman had been urging President Trump to be part of action against Iran. And Bernard Hakel, from his knowledge, is categorical that he does not believe that is the case, that there were conversations between MBS and President Trump in the last month, but that was the Crown Prince urging the US not to do this. So that's how Professor Hakel sees it. I think then the point is that targets within Saudi Arabia have been targeted by Iran in the last few days, as have other countries. And so that leaves Mohammed bin Salman in this position where naturally he needs to not only show his population that he can defend them, but also in a very real way to try and prevent attacks on his territory. Because don't forget, Christina, he's in the midst of this massive transformation of his country. That's what he's trying to do through this big flagship Vision 2030 program. It is why so many American and other companies are trying to make inroads into Saudi Arabia to be part of this transformation and the economic opportunity it represents. So at a very basic level, this kind of situation, missiles and drones flying about, airspace affected, confidence affected, shipping affected, all of that is driving a coach and horses through what he really wants to do with his country.
Right. He's been really trying to appeal to Westerners, including Americans, as you mentioned. We've seen social media has been very interesting during this conflict. And up to this run, you'd seen more and more Americans being brought by the Saudi government to see sites and post, Saudi's a great place to visit. And obviously, this is complicating that in more ways than one. Before I let you go, President Trump has said he wants a say in who the next supreme leader is. Is that even possible? And based on your conversations, who are the likely candidates?
Well, I think the ideal scenario for the United States would be that not only does the regime collapse, or that it survives in some way that allows a Venezuela-style scenario. This is the possibility that was one of the scenarios Bernard Hakel set out for the future of Iran, that there is essentially someone more compliant in charge in Iran. Now, one of the complicating factors in that is that some of the other people they had in mind, the administration, ended up being killed as part of the strikes. So, how thought through that aspect of the plan as well as the plan as a whole for Iran, one has to wonder about it. So what Bernard Hakel does in this interview, and if people listen to the whole thing, they'll hear him set out all of this. He says that there are three scenarios for Iran. One is that the regime survives or indeed is strengthened. And he says that going into it, the regime already had the support of 20% of the Iranian population. Second scenario is some kind of Venezuela-style situation. It survives, but the leadership is very different. And the third scenario, the one that Mohammed bin Salman and many others would be deeply worried about, is that it becomes a failed state, that it descends into civil war, that level of collapse of the country as well as the regime puts incredible amounts of instability and turbulence right in the midst of this already very complex part of the world. So I think we really continue to be at a really perilous time. And Bernard Hakel says that he does not believe this war has been thought through at all.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but I highly recommend everyone go listen to the full episode. It is out now. Thank you, Mishal, and be sure to subscribe to What Else? The Mishal Husain Show podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen, and watch full episodes on the Bloomberg Business app.